Hello, everybody. We were off last week, so I apologize for not having new content for you. And this week, we're shifting the start time for ClearPath LeaderCast to noon on Thursdays, away from 5 on Thursdays. So a few changes. Really, I'm excited to be back today. We're going to focus today on a topic that not a lot of people realize is an issue for them until you identify it, and then they absolutely realize it's an issue. And this is an issue for leaders that we're going to talk about. So stay tuned. I really wish I had the money to commission music that I could put in front of this, because I would throw out a song, "Oh, What a Lonely Boy," and it's like an old 70s song, but it's really the right song as we talk today about the loneliness of leadership. So that's our topic today. Welcome to ClearPath LeaderCast. My name is Craig Anderson. I am the president of ClearPath Coaching and Consulting. I was in corporate America for 30 years, and I'm a guy with an English degree. I am the classic accidental leader. I somehow find myself as a guy who thought he was going to have an English degree and teach in schools, ended up in education finance, working for Fortune 500 companies. Had to learn a lot about business, had to learn a lot about leadership, and really go through a lot of challenges over that time. But I paid a lot of attention to how things got done in business, what was important to focus on in business, and what real leaders are. And that's what started after I built another business. We sold that, and that's when I started out into the ClearPath coaching and consulting business to really help accidental leaders like I was grow into those leadership roles. So we're going to talk today about one aspect of leadership that isn't talked about a lot. And what we're really going to talk about is the loneliness of leadership. And, that sounds kind of pathetic. It sounds kind of gratuitous for somebody to complain about being lonely. Leaders make a lot of money. Everybody loves leaders, or at least everybody acknowledges leaders. Everybody knows who they are. And who are they to complain? They're sitting in a position of power and authority. And I understand that perspective. I understand that point of view. I probably held that point of view for many years. But what I really want to talk to you about today is something that we don't talk about enough, which is that leadership can be a very lonely and isolating place. And a lot of people say, well, that's crazy, Craig. I mean, you're surrounded with people all the time, setting COVID aside. You're in the office, lots of people around talking to you all the time. And so you're around people. How can you possibly say leadership is lonely? Well, it is lonely because psychologically and deep down inside, here's where it really gets is when you're in a leadership role, you are making all the decisions. All those people that are around you, their lives, or at least their work lives, depend upon you making good decisions. Everybody who comes to you that helps you with decisions, and they do, but everybody has their own agenda. And you always have to kind of keep a half an eye on it. Heck, even your family has an agenda when they come to you. So how do you kind of keep what's the right thing overall all the time? And that falls back to you. And that's the loneliness and isolation of leadership that I'm talking about. Even though you're surrounded with people all the time, you really are alone because you're making the big decisions that matter for your business. You're the one who, if your decision is right, great, everybody moves forward. If your decision wrong, everyone's looking to you wondering why you made that bad decision. And that's where it really becomes a challenge. I first realized this years ago. It's a whole long story of outsourcing and insourcing, but I had a team of 70 people that were thrust in the middle of a fairly hostile insourcing, outsourcing event between two companies. And I knew that the key to success was to keep my team together. And I had to hold that team together throughout the legal and other posturing that was going on during that time. And I remember sitting down on a Saturday night, having gone through all this all week long, and it went on for weeks. But my family was out of town. It was a Saturday night, and I was just sitting there in my house, just churning and churning because I had nowhere else to turn. I was this man on an island, this person on an island where I had to carry the weight of all these decisions. And what I knew, whatever decision I made for myself was going to drive what other people did. So I felt the weight of that decision. And that really is what drives to the loneliness, is you are feeling the weight of these decisions. It all comes down to you. And that's where it can become very isolating for the leader. And so what do you do? I mean, if you're not careful, you can kind of just spin yourself up into all the weightiness of this decision. And it can cause a lot of problems. It can cause physical illness. It can cause, through stress. It can cause depression. It can cause a whole lot of problems. And, leaders have to figure out ways to manage all that stress, because they look around and they say, well, I'd like to talk to them, but they're going to think about what's in it for them. And they're going to think about what's in it for them. And I can't make the decision and then blame everybody. I mean, actually, a lot of leaders do that. They make the decision, it's the wrong decision, and they blame the people around them. That's leadership weakness. And honestly, that pisses me off, because when we are leaders, everything comes back to us. The buck stops here. We make the decisions. We own the decisions. We can't turn around and blame everyone around us for the bad decision we make. Even if we got bad information, we're the ones who should have gotten to the right source of that information. That's what's so crucial for leaders. And it's a leadership failure when you start blaming the people around you for your own shortcomings. Sorry, long story to the shorter kind of a diatribe. But when you're a leader, you have this feeling that you have to take on all these decisions. And ultimately, through that personal crisis that I went through in that time, fortunately that worked out well, but it was a rough time. And, the people looked to what I did. They followed me. Fortunately, one day I had kind of I wouldn't say a breakdown, but one day my frustration was clearly showing. And I had kind of a guy who worked for me who was older than me and had been around and had been through a lot of mergers. And this was in outsourcing, insourcing, and I hadn't. And he came to me and he said, Craig, look, everyone's looking to you. If you start losing it, if you start letting the frustration show or the anxiety show, it's going to permeate through the organization. You set the standard, you set the tone. And that is just great. And that's great. And that's true, but it just increases that feeling of isolation. So what do we do? As I said, that toll of leadership can really start to wear down on you. I actually had somebody tell me that great leaders are the ones who can bear the pain of leadership more than other people. And that's a disturbing quote in some ways, but also such a true quote, because it is painful to carry that load. It is really a difficult challenge. And I don't think people think about that when they step into leadership roles. They're just happy to get promoted. And once you're in it, and for a while it does feel great, but then you start to sense the weight of these decisions. And so that's where the physical toll can come in, where the mental toll and emotional toll can come in. And you start to realize that I can't continue to do this all by myself. What can you do as a leader to reduce that isolation? And I've had people kind of throw out, well, you need to build relationships with your people, and and all those things are important, but they're not going to reduce that feeling of isolation in leadership. It's one of my favorite scenes in the end of Star Trek: The Next Generation. All the direct reports to Captain Picard have a regular poker night. And in the very last episode, he kind of shows up and is surprised he hasn't done it before. And, and that's a great heartwarming thing. And it is good for you to have a great relationship with your leadership team. That doesn't supplant the fact that you are still the one ultimately making the decision. So build that community. But where can you get people who understand what you're going through? And that's where we start shifting into solutions for the loneliness of leadership. One, and I'll just get this out of the way, coaching. That helped me. I hired an executive coach to help me with the decision process, to help me not feel like I'm carrying all this weight, to help me sort through those feelings that I had, and to help me kind of put perspective on things. And a great executive coach can really help you set aside, one, they're right there with you. They don't have an agenda for you. So they're right there with you, and they can help you grow as a leader. It's a really effective thing for you to do, is to bring someone in who can help you with perspective, help you kind of separate the wheat from the chaff, and help you to make better decisions, and help you. And right there, there's someone with you. So you're not always carrying this burden. It's someone you can bounce these ideas off of. And so you start to feel less isolated. So that's one thing that you can do. And if you're interested in that, I would love to talk to you about it. You can just shoot me an email at craig@clearpathcoaches.com, and we can set something up. Next thing for you to do is think about, where can I find maybe a peer or a couple of peers, other leaders. Sometimes that's within your same organization. That depends a lot on your culture. Sometimes it can be with leaders outside your organization who are similarly situated. Craig, why are you saying that inside your company that might not be as good of an idea? Well, it depends a lot on the culture of the company. I've been in companies where, it's kind of, not stated, but kind of happens. And it's part of the culture that those equal leaders are kind of competing with each other for resources. And, you don't really want to be vulnerable or bare your soul if you're worried that person's going to go somehow take resources away from you. So sometimes we have these kind of dysfunctional organizations that reward bad behavior. So you don't want to be in that place. So I don't encourage, so sometimes you have to read the room, you have to read and understand what's going on in your company. But that may be a challenge for you to find peers that you can commiserate with and who can provide support to you. But if you have an opportunity to build relationships with leaders who are similarly situated to you, maybe you're a business owner, find a community of other business owners who are dealing with the things that you're dealing with. It will help you in so many ways because one, you'll see that these issues that feel so huge and so weighty to you, and they are, but they're not unique to you. Everybody's dealing with those issues. And with the right mix of people around in this group that you build of peer leaders, you're going to find that sometimes those leaders are have dealt with those things that you're actively dealing with today, and they can help you think through that process. The beauty of having these peer leaders together, it becomes a community of people who are only there because you provide them support and they provide you support. There's no, side things coming in where they need something or want something. It's really kind of a mutual thing. And that community of like-minded leaders can really help you with carrying that burden, help you think through what's going on. It's a crucial piece of a group experience, being a peer group or group coaching experience, whichever those things you might want to do. But it helps you to kind of gain perspective. It helps you to find support and get some input that you can value and trust. And frankly, a group to hold you accountable as you go through some of those difficult decisions. So that's really, it's building that community of peers or getting a coach to help you with the perspective, to help you see that these problems are not insurmountable or that these challenges are not for you alone, that a lot of leaders go through it. So that's what I would really encourage you to think about. So if that's something you're interested in doing, reach out to me. I would love to talk to you about how we can really address those specific things that are making you feel lonely and isolated as a leader and find solutions that will help you break through that isolation, help you break through that loneliness so that you can start to become, really that, have the life that you want. I know one leader I talked to, it was so bad for him. His family and his friends were like, "Are you okay? What's going on with you?" Because this really can come out of the office and impact your whole life. So it's really crucial for you to solve this. I would love to help you do that. CraigClearPathCoaches.com. Let's set up a time to talk. Or if you want, you can just set up that group yourself. Find a group of trusted peers and set yourself up. So that is this week's episode of Clear Path Leadercast. If you want to know more about yourself, we've had the scroll down across the bottom for this whole episode on you can take a core values index. Will really help you know where your energies are and how you interact with teams. Great assessment there. Can talk to you about that as well. Look forward to seeing you all again next Thursday at noon Eastern. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.